Morning, everybody. Welcome on in. Okay, we've got a little bit too much brightness coming in from one side, so we're just gonna. The wonderful, beautiful Hawaiian sun is making me look like I'm in the With the Beatles album cover, where half of my face is hard to see. Anywho, we have a bit of a reversal of the normal Saturday content. So typically, for those of you who don't know, oh, and that reminds me, I need to turn this source back on. Perfect. Typically, for those of you who might be new, I ask, hey, are y'all, if y'all are looking for advice or consultations, you write me at askwellmuscle@gmail.com and you ask me for advice because, hey, 29-year-old financially independent nuclear engineer, runway model with a six-pack, kind of a big deal. By the way, I am actually going to be judging a modeling casting call for the upcoming Honolulu Fashion Week runway show. So I'm going to be watching a bunch of female runway models a little bit later today over in Waipahu. And I'm going to be riding my bicycle there, not because I have to, but because I want to. If you were wondering how I get this, there you go. That's how. Boom. All right. Credentials over and flexing over because, yes, I hit a huge fucking deadlift today. Simply put, some news came out just this morning that completely changed what I wanted to do with this stream. So I'm gonna go ahead and post the link in chat because that's gonna be a good explainer. So for those of you who have been out of the loop, there is a program in the federal government under this new Trump administration called DOGE. It stands for Department of Government Efficiency. Whether or not you like it or you hate it, that's not really the point here. From a practical standpoint, what it does mean is very simple. The Department of Defense, as well as other departments, are looking to downsize the overall scope of the number of people working for the federal government. As it stands, I am currently employed by the US Navy. There's only one job a nuclear engineer can do in the state of Hawaii, so it wasn't exactly hard to figure that out. But because of this, I am exposed to the potential events that DOGE may create or make happen. So one of those events is that they want to cut the overall size of every department. And that does include Department of Defense. A lot of people are giving Elon and the Trump administration grief for not wanting to cut the military enough, but Secretary of Defense Hegseth has publicly stated he would like to cut DoD's civilian workforce by 5 to 8%. That's a big deal. That is a lot of people. And as a result, in January, the Trump administration rolled out something called DRP. Now, DRP, and if you look at the link, it will give you more information, stands for Deferred Retirement or Resignation. I think it's resignation. Some people are effectively using it as retirement. Resignation program. So, the Deferred Resignation Program, or DRP, is the goal is to, instead of just cutting people, it's basically offering severance pay. So it's the federal government effectively trying to act a bit more like a private company, where a private company may say, hey, we are looking to downsize, and instead of just firing people, we want to offer people a severance package to see if some of them will voluntarily leave. So that way you're not having to cut people who don't want to quit. You can argue whether or not that's a good thing, but the first round of this was in January. In January, about 2% of the workforce, roughly 21,000 people, I think there between not quite a million civilians working for the DoD in some way or another, right? You've got logistics side, you've got shipyard workers, you've got people in MWR side of things, people who run military housing, people who do maintenance on bases, you name it, right? All the stuff that the active duty people don't really have the capability to support. A military base requires a fair amount of infrastructure to support. So a lot of these people are hired typically as what's called, they're salaried workers, which is called the GS, government scale, or they are hourly wage workers. I forget what the acronym is for that. The government loves its acronyms, the military even more so. And by the way, I am keeping the shirt off. It's like 80 degrees in here, and I just did a deadlift workout, so I am quite warm. But where it comes down to is in January, they offered roughly 6 months severance pay. In other words, for those of you who don't know what severance pay is, it is you quit your job, they will keep giving you your paycheck for the next 6 months, even though you're not working, and then that's it after 6 months. So roughly speaking, if you retired, let's say February 1st, you took it the plan when it was first out there, you'd get paid until August or September or something like that, and then you'd be unemployed. You'd go do something else, and you can, by all means, take another job in this time. So the question here is, that came and that went, and I was considering it just because I'm very much at the point of financial independence. I have enough money saved up and enough passive income built to where I no longer need to work my job. I don't mind my job. In some days I really like my job. There are other days where I really don't like my job. For instance, I've been in training classes pretty much nonstop, and it's just, a lot of studying, a lot of super deep stuff. I can tell you more about how submarines work. Well, actually, no, I cannot because of security reasons, but I know about how submarines work in intricate detail now. More detail than one might want. It's a fascinating topic, right? It's a nuclear power plant inside a boat. They're pretty cool. And this is all public information for those of you who don't know. That's what's at Pearl Harbor. But where it comes down to is, it sounds like, based off of that Business Insider article, that Secretary of Defense Hegseth wants to do a second round of the DRP. That is, he's called for it. It hasn't started yet, but calling for the reopening of the deferred resignation program, which previously offered some full-time employees the chance to resign with full pay and benefits and to offer voluntary early retirement to eligible civilian employees. Now, where all this fits in, let's say I take it, okay? So if I take it, I get pay for, I presume, 6 months. So that would put me, I assume I would probably take it and, they'd have to do out processing. So that'd probably take a couple weeks. So it'd probably be around, I'd get paid until about November. So we'd get pay until November of 25. After that, can pick up other work. So what I could do is I could try and find other work on the base. There are private companies that work on the base. For instance, let's just say I wanted to keep base access so I could use the base gym. Well, what I could do is see if I could find a job within that gym, just like 8 or 10 hours a week, part-time, just for a little beer money. But I say beer money, I don't drink, but more importantly, to get base access. And the reason you want base access is because there are shit tons of hiking trails, especially on this island of Oahu, where you need a CAC, a base access card to go and do. Some of my favorites: Tripler Ridge, Pu'uhapapa, Kole Kole Pass, Radar Hill Road on Fort Shafter, and there's some really good beaches too: Hickam Beach, Kamehameha Beach, and all sorts of others. So very tempting to go that route. Not to mention, right, again, it's a question of, well, how much income do I really need? Truth be told, I'm sitting at enough. We'll get into the money side of it in just a moment, but so I can pick up other work. I'm not required to be unemployed and sit on my ass. In fact, it's actually even said in the previous round of DRP emails, we encourage you to go find work in the private sector. That's the whole point of this. So, okay, they want to cut the size and scope of the federal government. I actually am quite happy that they're willing to do this with DoD, because there's plenty of waste in every part of the government, but especially in DoD. Look, I don't want to get political, but the Department of Defense has failed its audit for the last 7 years. There needs to be cuts made. I'm not some fucking peacenik, but we piss away a lot of the money. The U.S. Department of Defense currently is run very inefficiently, and some cuts need to be made. Now, if you want to get into solving the deficit, the truth is you can't do that until you reform Social Security, and that means increasing the retirement age and probably increasing taxes to pay for it. A lot of people will hate that, but that's reality. Economic reality is a bitch. So if I don't take it, I will probably get some form of raise this year as I continue to get more qualified as a fully fleshed out nuclear radiological engineer. And I get exposed, however, I get exposed to something called a RIF. A RIF, an RIF, stands for Reduction in Force. What Secretary Hegseth is trying to do with these voluntary programs is avoid doing a RIF. The last RIF the Department of Defense had to go through, I believe, was 1996 under the Clinton administration. Hey, are you wondering why we ran a budget surplus in the 90s? It's almost like Bill Clinton was willing to compromise with the other side. Huh. Funny how that works. Anyway, but a reduction in force is based on merit, time in service, and all these other factors. Certain people just get the chop, and that's, you're not getting any pay, you're not getting any severance for that. So if you get a RIF, that's a lot less fun. So if a RIF occurs, because I am only, I haven't even been working here for a full year yet, I'm pretty low on the totem pole. So if a RIF occurs, there's a chance I get the chop. And at that point, well, I'm unemployed either way, and I could have had 6 months guaranteed pay. If I were to take the DRP, I would be streaming a lot more. I would be creating a lot more content. I would be networking a lot more. I would be doing a lot more fashion stuff because, well, I've got all the time in the world to do that now. I would be willing to do, there's a lot of, I would have a lot more flexibility is really where it comes down to. So this is very tempting. These are just sort of the basics of it. Now, I want to talk about how this affects cash flow. Right, just because I have enough money to, on paper, be financially independent doesn't mean it's just sitting there in the bank and I can withdraw it all and just live off of it. First off, that's extremely inefficient. You don't want to do that. What you want to do, right, is it's much more valuable to... I assume there's one other thing. There's one other thing. I need to get clarification on this one, so I'll put a question mark here. My pension, federal pension benefits, which first off, I don't think that pension would be there when I go to pick it up, but if I kept working, I'd probably get at least a lump sum whenever I did quit. And I currently get matching from the Thrift Savings Program, which is the 401k equivalent the federal government offers. It's 5% of salary, which is about average. It's normal. So it would be a couple $1,000s off for that. So I don't think if I took DRP, I would be able to get any of this. It's just a question that I would like to consider. So that is something that may be worth looking into. I don't know whether or not that'll happen, but hey. So if I were to, let's talk a little bit more about cash flow here. So currently speaking, until June 30th, I'm locked into this rent. So I'm June 30. Until June 30th, my housing expenses are roughly $2,300 a month. It's about $1,950 and then about $250 for utilities. Yeah, Hawaii has 45 cents a kilowatt hour for electricity. We make California look cheap on that one. And gas, water, everything else is extremely expensive, especially at this apartment. But that's until June 30th. Now, I could move across to a studio and sign up for another 12-month lease, which might drop my housing expenses to $2,200 or $2,100 a month, but that's still pretty expensive. But if I choose to go the roommate route after June 30th, which I would have to do if I took this, it would likely be a drop of, yes, I am required to have renter's insurance, but it's super cheap because I take the absolute minimum because I just don't own that much stuff that's worth insuring. Good question, ENB. At the end of June 30th, I would probably go for a roommate situation. I've already got a couple leads on this within the Salt Lakes area. Not to mention, if I quit, I don't have to live near the base. So I could live in downtown Honolulu. I could live, pretty much anywhere. Hell, I could leave the state of Hawaii. I really don't want to do that, but I could. So if I go the roommate route, that would drop my housing costs by over, probably at bare minimum, $1,000 a month. My internet costs would drop a little bit because I'm splitting it. My utility costs would drop because I'd be splitting that. And then my housing costs, most roommate situations range from between $600 and $1,200 a month. So we take the middle of that. And then for a safety factor, let's say $1,000 a month. So if my current base rent is $1,950 and I go down to $1,000, that's $950 a month in savings, at least another $50 a month in utilities savings, probably more. So we're looking at a drop of $1,200, anywhere between $1,000 and $1,200 a month in savings. That is a huge amount of money. $1,200, let's just say $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year. At a 4% savings rate, we already know this calculation, okay? You just multiply it by 25. That's $300,000 I don't need to have invested to be financially independent. So that's a huge amount of money. All my other expenses. Now, I could absolutely cut out, I go out to eat every so often, and I'll go, and I'm pretty generous with gifts with my friends. I'll send my friends some pretty nice gifts. I could probably cut back a bit there, especially if I was facing unemployment. So other costs, let's just say, taking a look here, other costs would probably fall, need to pull up my budget, somewhere around the $100 a month range. Probably not a ton, because there may be other expenses I'd have to deal with. Actually, that's the next one. The next one I want to talk about is healthcare. So on one hand, I would still have my benefits until November, and November is when the next healthcare sign-up season is anyway. So if I do that, the question then becomes, what on earth are my healthcare insurance costs going to look like? because it's going to be dependent on what my income is. I would probably have to go with the public market. I don't know what that looks like in Hawaii. I mean, my current healthcare plan is based on an HSA, so it's totally a question mark as to what I even have to work with there. So this one's a question mark. I have no idea what it could be. I generally, in terms of healthcare, I barely ever go and see the doctor anyway. It's just not something that is all that relevant to my current lifestyle. Obviously, right, if I have a catastrophic injury, or say, I get hit by a car on my bike and I have a couple broken bones, God forbid, knock on wood, that'll never happen. But if it does, I need to plan for that. So I've generally planned on that by having an HSA, which I filled up with a 5-digit sum. It's big enough to where I can handle multiple years maximum out of pocket. And from that point, I can go and handle a higher insurance cost. So health insurance is a question mark. Could go up, could go down. So total costs right now, my average monthly budget these days is, I would say it's around the I would say it's probably around, let's be conservative here, around $3,500 a month. So that is a lot. If we were to cut back though, let's say that cuts $1,200 off, that sends it down to $2,300 a month. So that is, right, we're gonna go from, that's $42,000 a year to 28, something like that. So 27,600. So let's round up, let's be conservative. Conservatism in design, it's a good Rickover principle. And if you don't know who Hyman Rickover is, ask anyone who has ever worked for the US Nuclear Navy and they will tell you. There's a really funny meme in the office that I love. It's that SpongeBob meme with Jeffrey Jellyfish, and Patrick's like, hero worship is unhealthy. Come on, Jeffrey. And he's got Jeffrey tied up in a friggin' little wagon. There's a meme of that with a picture of Admiral Rickover photoshopped over Jeffrey Jellyfish. It's pretty accurate. There is a lot of people like Hyman Rickover. The dude built the US Nuclear Navy. He was also a tremendous asshole. He was extremely effective mostly because he was a tremendous asshole, but he was not a nice person. But he needed that level of, it was that level of strict attention to detail, and he was so demanding of his men that it's why the US Nuclear Navy is by far and away, it's the gold standard for nuclear safety. Even the US nuclear industry commercially looks to the Navy for a lot of nuclear safety advice, as they should. So we'd be looking at about $30,000 a year if I were to stay here in Hawaii. Now, a couple of caveats to this. Some of these expenses, roughly $350 a month at present are housing costs related to the house I own in South Carolina. So let's go ahead and let's operate from this cut budget. So $30,000 a year, because realistically, if I take DRP, I'm not going to stick around in this apartment complex. That's stupid. That's gonna force me to work, basically, or unsustainably rely on a very high withdrawal rate. It's just not smart. So 30,000 per year. How do I cover this with passive income? Well, the South Carolina rental house provides currently $1,100 a month. Now, The reason I'm counting this as something I can deduct from my overall expenses as cash flow is because a large chunk of what I get is equity for that. So I list the non-equity portion as in my budget. This is the way I do accounting. I list the non-equity portion of my South Carolina house expenses as housing expenses. So this is roughly $350 a month. So that, though, is covered by my tenant's rent. And I know my tenant is, he's been talking about potentially buying the place. If he does that, okay, great. That gives me a large cash flow, obviously, and it eliminates those expenses. But I currently make a very good return on this property, $1,100 a month. For the equity I have in it, I have roughly, depending on housing prices, not quite $100,000 in housing equity right now. And I add to that every month, roughly $550 a month. So we'll drop $1,100 a month from the total expenses. Now, actually, well, this is the trouble from a cash flow. It's like, yes, that's building equity. I think if this is the case, I probably would sell the house eventually. So we can count this all against the total. So $1,100 a month is $13,200 a year. Okay, so $13,200 a year. Now we're down to only needing to cover $16,800 a month. Okay. For those of you who have been in my Discord channel, y'all know about some business loans I've been making. Those also provide roughly, I think it's about $10.50 a month. So that's going to be $12,600. Okay, $12,600. Now, my business partners could potentially pay these loans back early, and then I have a bunch of principal. Well, I can either invest or then live off of that principal. So I think we're good there. So now we're at, okay, 30,000 minus 13,200. We're at 16,800 minus 12,600. Now we are only at $4,200 that we need to make. So if we deduct these two items alone, $4,200 to make. If I take just a part-time job working at a gym, so that way I get free gym access, or I don't know, working maybe at like the base GNC. The base gym is the ideal move, but the reason why is that way I get a base access pass, so I can still, again, as I said, use the hiking trails. But $4,200, right, even if I make minimum wage, so $14 an hour, right, and I work only 10 hours a week, or let's just say 8 hours a week, right? So 14 times 8, that's 140 minus 28 is $114 a week. Not much, $114 a week. So let's just round that down to 100 because of taxes, okay? So that's $100 a week. There are 52 weeks in a year. That's $5,200. So ignoring everything else, we're already at the point of fuck you. No, I'm not getting on food stamps. I'm not abusing the largesse of the government. That I refuse to do. That's just wrong. So minimum wage job for 8 hours a week, and I suspect I could probably do a little bit better than that, already covers this deficit. And we haven't touched, okay? We haven't touched a single cent of all the money I have invested. Otherwise, we haven't touched my IRA, which I can get access to with a 72T and a Roth conversion ladder. We haven't touched my current existing investment account. We haven't touched my TSP money. We haven't touched my HSA money. And we haven't even talked about the money I currently make doing modeling shows. I'm going to get $1,000 for a show I'm doing in the Philippines in May. Or sorry, a skincare deal I'm doing in the Philippines in May. I'm probably going to get another couple hundred from a show in the Philippines in September. I'm going to get another couple hundred for a show here in May. I'm going to get another couple hundred from a show in Washington State in April. get a job in the best gym in your area, free membership. Well, the truth is, if I really wanted to be fun with it, I could just continue using the gym here, even though I didn't live here, because I'm friends with all the guards at this point, so they kind of like me. So I could just do that and say I'm lifting with friends. I know I choke people in this apartment complex, so like and especially if I ride my bike up, they would never be able to tell, because again, bike parking's super easy at this place. Car parking? Nah, car parking sucks here, but bike parking, very easy. So I have free gym access, even if I didn't want to use the base gym. But the reason I would want to get like a job like at the base is solely because I would want base access pass to go fuck around on the hikes on bases here. Just because I like hitting Tripler Ridge and I like hitting Radar Hill Road and all that. Could you get a part-time job that gives you better health insurance you get on the exchange and technically go the barista fire route? Absolutely. Again, there are plenty of Starbucks on any fucking military base. There's one on Hickam, for instance. There's loads of great options there. Gigolo pay is untaxed. The elephant in the room, because so many people for years have asked me, why don't you do OnlyFans? Why don't you do OnlyFans? Why don't you do where OnlyFans? Where lewd pictures? Where nudes? Give me nudes. I want nudes for free. First off, if you're looking for free porn from me, go fuck yourself. Second off, if I'm gonna do that, you had better damn sure be ready to pay for it. But second off, I have so many other options at this point. I don't even need to consider that at this juncture. Then on top of all of this, okay, those of you who haven't heard, I'm going to be Mr. Supranational Hawaii. That means come mid-May, I am going to, actually for my 30th birthday, I'm going to be in Miami competing for Mr. Supranational USA. And if I win that, I'm going to Poland to compete for Mr. Supranational. And if I win that, I get $50,000. Which is that if I cut my expenses to 30 grand a year, that even if I just keep these two line items going, that covers expenses for more than 10 years, even if I don't invest it. Now, where I'm going with this is there is a lot of incentive for me to say, hey, it's been fun, but I quit. I can make the math argument for it. However, on the side of continuing to keep my job, it's entirely possible that with some of the moves the Trump administration is making regarding tariffs, we're going to see a crash in the stock market. If I have a job that continues to pay me during that crash, let's say that crash happens, I don't know, December, I can invest at much lower prices, which is really nice. However, at the same time, it's like, let's just say worst case scenario, I take DRP. First off, I continue getting paid until November, so all that money, it's going into the markets, as it fluctuates. But I'll probably be a bit more conservative, invest in some of the more dividend-paying funds, because that way I can start taking divvy money. But let's just say the worst case scenario happens. Stock market crashes. Let's say I sell the South Carolina house and the business loans all pay me back before November, and then I invest all the money into the stock market, and then the stock market goes tits up. Well, then all I have to do is, okay, Hawaii, it's been fun. Either return to the mainland or go expat route, live in the Philippines, especially with this modeling stuff. I'm going to have contacts in the Philippines for dirt cheap and continue being retired. Seems like a pretty easy win to me. So, kind of funny, but I'm having trouble seeing the downside here. I kind of want to take it. With keeping my job, I do enjoy it. I actually really do like my job. I like my coworkers. The content, the topic is interesting, but I'm done engineering at this point. This will be my last engineering job, full stop. Whether or not I quit now, or whether or not I quit in a couple of years, or whether or not I quit realistically, I'm probably not working this job past about 2027. 3 years is probably the longest I would see myself. Because at that point, I'm going to have a net worth approaching $1 million, and no. Life's too short. I punted my 20s to get to this point. Quitting your job and moving to Southeast Asia is almost always the correct answer. However, on the other hand, if I do continue working, I can continue being a capitalist and investing in other businesses. These business loans have worked out really well so far. Lab Boys, I know at some point you're going to start your own company, and I kind of want to get in on the ground floor with that. So it's like, do I want some seed money for that shit, you know? So I have a feeling, I know you well enough to where that, like that, I get the sense that that will be the long-term game plan with you. And I feel like Bull Muscle Capital, and I know what you're thinking. Yes, I'm not going to say that on air, but I feel like that would be a very good investment opportunity with my money. So, anywho, it's a lot to chew over, but this is one where, I mean, for those, I'm currently pretty busy with tilapia maxing. Bro, tilapia maxing is pretty good. I can get cheap tilapia even here at the Costco. But this is just something I'm kind of chewing over in my head, and I genuinely want y'all's advice. If you knew me from TreeCord, if you know me from my current Discord server, if you are a real life friend, if you have only seen me based off of Instagram or stuff like that, guys, I've done it. Right, the goal for how many years now? Years. Like, we're talking since 2017 when I graduated college, has been, I want to be retired by age 30. I turned 30 in 2 months. I turned 30 years old in 2 months. Jesus Christ, how did that happen? Here we are, it's 2025. This is that date I just kind of had planned off in the corner. Not to mention, how much publicity, if I actually do this, could I get if I say, yeah, I retired at 29? I feel like that's the amount of that's the other thing. With 8 hours in the day, the amount of networking I can do. Basically, if I take this DRP, I'm betting on myself. So, yeah, I'm really thinking about this, guys. I love this job. And the truth is, I don't think, even during a riff, I don't think I'd get canned. I think the odds of that are pretty low. Remember, I'm at the most unionized state in the country. I think the IPFTE would have my back, but I'd be in blogger territory then, FI blogger. I could do an FI blog, but that's effectively what this channel is. And I think a blog specifically, right, it's been done. Mr. Money Mustache did it at 30. Jacob Fisker did it at 31, something like that. And they have written it far better than I ever could. The amount of time you'd have to pursue other shit. Right, all these calculations are assuming I don't do fuck all to make money in my free time. Like, I just go and fucking surf at the North Shore or some shit all day, which, tempting, very tempting. But yeah, I don't know, man. I never thought this would actually happen. I worked so hard to get to this point. All those 14-hour days in my early 20s in fucking Greenville, Texas, working a job I hated. Fucking sweating it out in South Carolina, basically punting on dating through the entirety of my 20s for lack of good options. I've done it. I've done it. I've won. I've won. Yo, this is everything I have worked for. Not to mention, I'd be in even better shape. Like, if you think I'd be in good shape now, bro, the amount of good, delicious snacks that get brought into the office I have trouble passing up, all those would go away. Not to mention, I would probably bring my food budget down, which means I'd cut back even more on the shit I don't really need, we would definitely be broccoli and chicken maxing. I might join my bro and do some tilapia maxing. Be doing some TVP maxing as well. Canned tuna maxing and all sorts of other maxing. But holy shit, I've done it. So I really just want to thank each and every one of you, especially Lab Boys, ENB, y'all two are the ones in chat being active right now. I mean, Lab Boys, you've known me since the day you were born, being my brother, but ENB, you've been here from the first original OG Pokemon streams on Twitch, and what, that was 2019? So that was 6 years ago. You actually, EMB, really great answer. You are now in 2025 where I was in 2019. And frankly, I think you might even be doing a better job of managing your life than I was at that point, which is absolutely stellar. So hats off to you for that. I'm not putting on a hat. Oh, here we go. They're fucking awful this year in baseball, but hats off to you for that, my man. But I've done it. You joined in 2021 after you took a long break. No, I remember you. I could have sworn I remember you at the OG Pokemon streams way back when I was in Greenville. Maybe I'm wrong. Shout out to all the dogs in the chat. But yeah, guys, I've done it. Just based off of rental income and business loans alone, it's over. I've won. I really do have fuck you money. I'm not even a millionaire, and I have fuck you money because I've kept my expenses down. And, right, this is assuming I go for a fairly nice roommate situation, which I'm gonna wanna do. Because if I do that, first off, if I do that, I get my own bathroom in one of these places, and odds are I can work things out with my roommate to have guests, which I'm sure certain people in this chat are very much about that situation. We're still doing the original Pokemon Crystal Nuzlocke run in 2021. I could have sworn my first... No, because I was streaming in Greenville. I know I was streaming in Greenville. I know for a fact I was doing that. That was 2019. I was probably still doing it because I did not stream frequently, but the first ones were 2019. I know it was you, Metal Machine, Garfield, Lab Boys to show up then. Maybe it wasn't you, but either way, I'm super glad you're here. But still, you moved to SC in 2021. Yes, I did. Early 2021. Also, you can tell I'm looking a little bit chubbier in the midsection, and that's not a lot. That's not a mistake. I waited at 223, thick fucking boy this morning. The reason being that all the modeling crew for Tacoma and Honolulu's show are out this week, and they've been just making these incredible, gigantic Filipino meals every night. And Filipino food is really tasty, but the Filipinos really are the Mexicans of Asia. Their food is fucking delicious. They're Catholic, they're very fun with parties, and their food will make you fat if you eat too much of it. And I have a hard time doing that. So no, I am going to get serious and cut down. It's just hard to do with all this stuff. Found Dodger in 2019, joined Shreveport in 2020, then your streams 2021 after the spring split. Oh, okay. Cries and tilapia. Bro, honestly, there are some days I wish I didn't have the temptation. But today at least, I've already burned 1,900 calories, and I'm biking all the way to Waipahu today instead of driving in my van. Just for this exact reason. That's another thing I could do, right? I could go and get a job just as a basic mechanic at one of these K-van shops, and they're really hurt for work. Would I, be making a lot of money? No, but I'd be learning. I'd be getting much better at fixing my own car, which drops my expenses even further. Doesn't feel like it's been that long at all. No, isn't it wild? 2021 was like, that was yesterday, right? When did it become 2025? When did I become 30 years old? Holy fuck. I've won, gentlemen. I've won. So I guess that's really all I got to say. So chat, I'm opening it up to you here. This is coming straight from the heart. I want your advice. Become a snitch for Doge. Honestly, bro, if Elon and I had a 10-minute conversation, oh yeah, I would be telling him a whole lot of people at SRS would have been getting fired. Frankly, see, I like my coworkers at the shipyard too much. I'd want to cover for them. But there's a lot of people not doing a lot of work. And the truth is, my job is only necessary because the federal regulations around nuclear power and, oh God, the state regulations here make it necessary. We deal with radiation levels so pathetically low that, like, you get more every time you go to the dentist. You get more every time you take an airplane flight, basically anywhere. Like a flight, we actually measure. So we have emergency planning. And one of the things we do is public relations. So, right, people don't understand radiation units. And radiation units, unfortunately, this is one where I really, okay, I know this makes me sound like the soy boy, lefty internationalist, but the US measurement system is fucking dumb. Apart from Fahrenheit, honestly, Celsius is kind of dumb, but either way. The US system measurement is dumb, and it makes radiation even worse because we do things in REM. REM stands for Röntgen, I think it's Röntgen, not Röntgen, equivalent man. No other country in the world uses those units. They use sieverts, which is the metric equivalent. Sieverts are the international standard. We really ought to adopt that because nuclear radiation measurements are already confusing enough because that's radiation. We haven't even discussed contamination, which is done with the unit of the Curie. So you've already got, or in metric terms, the becquerel. So you've already got two different units. People don't understand the difference between radiation and contamination. That's already confusing. And then we in the USA use different units than everyone else. As a result, you'll see stupid shit like, oh, 3 trillion or 3 billion becquerels were released. It's like, it's nothing, it's like calculating electricity or charge in coulombs. Like, it's a tiny fucking unit. Whereas the Curie, one Curie, that is a lot of contamination. Unless you're the Soviet Union, in which case a Curie is what you wish you'd been seeing at Mayak and Chernobyl and like a dozen different submarine accidents. Holy shit, y'all. If you ever get into nuclear science, it will make you the most anti-communist motherfucker out there. Or at least anti-Soviet motherfucker. Holy shit. Or anti-Russian in general. Bothers me with the Russians is they came up with a good reactor design, the VVER, and then chose not to use it. What's wrong with you guys? Chose the fucking RBMK instead. Anyway, I'm rambling. But yeah, gents, I've done it. Would really love y'all's advice. Ian B, I appreciate you're gonna take a rewatch there. And if you guys want to talk more about this, if you want it to be private, askbullmuscle@gmail.com. If not, come to my Discord and ask me there. I would prefer if, for those of you watching from Instagram, y'all didn't ask me by blowing up my Instagram DMs. That's already happening enough. I don't like the amount of time I'm having to spend on that app already. I'd really rather not do more. So please use the Discord server because that's going to allow, or YouTube comments, right? YouTube comments I'm willing to spend the time on because that's important to me. But that's another one. I haven't even monetized this channel. I deliberately don't run ads. Like, I deliberately keep this as unprofitable as possible because it's genuine. It's from the heart. Who's to say I have to continue doing that? Why couldn't I run ads? Yeah, it's getting to the point where it's becoming increasingly hard to justify continuing any job, even if it's this one. Again, I like this job, or at least I tolerate it as much as one can like a full-time job. But how much is 40? And really, it's not 40, right? It's 40 plus the commute time, which I like because I'm riding my bike around, but 40 plus the commute time, plus getting home, getting dressed, and all this other BS. What's that worth? Anyway, that's all I got for y'all today. If y'all have a consultation, email me, askabullmuscle@gmail.com. Right? Okay, it's serious, y'all. I've just proven, here's the math. I fucking won. Or, you know what, let's just cross this out, okay? $4,200 to make, right? So $4,200 a year, even at an ultra conservative 3% withdrawal rate, which is beyond conservative. It's honestly kind of stupidly conservative. That is going to equal, let's see, $4,000, 4,000, 12,000, 120,000, and then 200, 600, 6,000. So it'd be 126,000 for 3.3%. Roughly $140,000 invested. Y'all, I have that. I have a little bit more than that, just to put it mildly. How else will you meet sick? Bro, you don't have to censor yourself on this channel. I mean, how else will I meet sick cunts? Yeah, like the Aussies. It's not like I'm gonna stop talking and hanging out with them just because I'm no longer working there. Hell, if I'm working at the GNC or the gym, I'll probably see them about every day or at least once a week. But yeah, even if I didn't work a job at all, right, my passive income is going to put off way more than this amount of money from investments. Either from divvies or from appreciation of interest. And this South Carolina rental house, we're not even assuming the rental house is gaining value in the market, which it is. And whenever interest rates, what do you think housing prices are going to do whenever interest rates go down? Whee! Up they go! Gonna be probably, right. It's so fucking easy. It's so fucking easy. Gentlemen, this is why I talk about being frugal. Because I'm fucking 29 and we're legit talking about pulling the trigger and saying, hey, I'm out, peace. You didn't do anything wrong, but I no longer need the money. I'm retired at 20 fucking 9. Now a lot of people say, what about your family? What about a family? Yeah, sure, but I gotta have time to go and meet girls. You know, my current day job kind of makes that hard. I could have a family. Right now, I worked so hard, I punted so much in my 20s, I'm gonna go be a fucking playboy for a little while. Right? Not to be immodest, but like, I'm on the verge of being, if I win Mr. Supranational, right, that's gonna put me as a famous runway model. Do you think that might get some girls interested in me? Some really, really high quality women who aren't going to look at me. Well, of course, there'll be plenty of gold diggers, but some women that maybe can understand, if not mirror, but at least understand my financial perspective and therefore be willing to provide for themselves on the table. This whole traditional women don't really exist anymore. The trad wife that relies on you doesn't really exist anymore, so why do I need to be the trad husband provider? It's the 21st century, ladies. You got what you voted for. Hashtag feminism. How a coffee machine. Yeah, that's a good old good old Mr. Money mustache. You know, when I was moving to my OG job in Texas, my first job out of college, I actually passed through his town of Longmont, Colorado, and I so wish I had stopped to say hi. Someday I gotta meet that fucker. Or at least Jacob from Early Retirement Extreme. Or potentially Aaron Clary as well. I actually invited Clary out one time to here in Honolulu, but he's like, yeah, I know this sounds weird, but I have no interest in visiting Hawaii. It's just too much of a pain in the ass to fly out there. And I'm like, understandable. Have a nice day. Clary's a cool dude. I don't agree with him on everything, but he's got a lot of those three in particular. Let's say those three, my own father, of course, Jack Bogle, Burton Malkiel, and Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger as well. But really good people to learn from. You know, obviously my dad's not here anymore, nor is Charlie Munger. Rest in peace, Warren Buffett's right-hand man. But there's a reason Warren Buffett is as fucking successful as he is. A dude, relative to other billionaires at least, lives a modest lifestyle. He still lives in the same house he's owned in Omaha since like the 50s. He drives a 15-year-old Cadillac. It works. He doesn't need anything else. But simplicity, frugality, gentlemen, that's the name of the game. Here we are. Retirement. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video. I've been rambling for enough time. If you liked it, you know, hit like, comment, subscribe. The bigger this YouTube channel grows and the bigger, you know, all my other social media grows, the easier this decision comes for me. So if you want to see me retire, because I don't run ads, I rely on word of mouth. And that's why, you know, for the consultations, a lot of time I'll ask you to plug my social media. I don't ask for money. But really, it's just I want to introduce a mental cost, because if I give you the free advice and I don't make you work for it, you'll just discard it and continue doing what you're doing. That's psychological cost. There's actually some psychology behind that. Anyway, that is going to be it for me today. I will be live with Pokemon Stream tomorrow, probably going hiking with another model. May go hit Triple Ridge. No. He wanted to go to the Waianae range, so we'll do Pu'uhapapa and Kole Kole Pass. That'll be fun. That'll be a fun day, and then we'll either go hit North Shore or maybe Eva Beach. Ooh. What if I want to show him Mokuleia? Mokuleia? Ooh, that's tempting. I'm gonna talk to him about that. Fuck, do I want to show him? Nah. Pu'uhapapa. If it's cloudy, Mokuleia is probably a better choice. If it's sunny though, there isn't. Apart from Mount Ka'ala, Pu'uhapapa is such a good view. You can see like 3/4 of the entire island. On a clear day, you can see the town, Diamond Head, Punch Bowl Crater, Aliamanu Crater, all of Pearl Harbor, the North Shore, all of the Waianae side, the rest of the Waianae Range, Eva Beach, all the central kind of saddle between Ko'olau and Waianae ranges. Ooh, it's tempting. Nah, I haven't done Pu'uhapapa in a minute. I fucking love that hike. Anywho, I'm gonna chill on my Discord for a little while, have my protes, maybe go shower off and then get ready to bike over to Waipahu, because I gotta do that today. Shoots, until next time, y'all, make good decisions, because those good decisions form your actions. Those actions form your habits. Those habits form your values. Those values form an ethos to give you the guide star through the rough waters of life, and I don't know, maybe give you a 6-pack and let you retire at 29. It's tempting. Work for the power of fuck you. It's so fucking worth it. All the sacrifice, all the frugality, all the, you know, nights of going to bed early, all the hard workouts in the gym. Worth every sacrifice, because I answer to no one now. Much love, y'all. Come in for the hug. Shoots, like, comment, subscribe, man. We'll see what happens. Feel free to comment on this video too. If you're watching this after I've gone off the air, tell me what your thoughts are. Take it easy, y'all. See you tomorrow. Same time, same